All right now here on the John Neighbors Show, we are joined by a very special guest, a guy who knows all about basketball, all about hoops, and a guy that I know a lot of Razorback fans are going to remember in his time playing at Arkansas. It is the former Razorback himself, Dusty Hannes. Dusty, what's going on, man? Appreciate you coming on.
Wow, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so just tell us what's been going on with you. I know you've been playing pro ball for a while now, and you kind of been going to different places, but just got some great news that you're going to be going back to Israel, right?
Yeah. So I was with the team, Aroni Nessiona. When the war broke out, I went home. So that was like end of October. We did 2 weeks in Greece. After we evacuated, went home, and then, besides this USA gig that I went to, I've literally just been in Fayetteville at home. Just wasn't comfortable with going back, and then started negotiating with my team about, coming back. And yeah, negotiations were getting they were being tough. So was I guess. And the team that's first place in Israel now bought my contract out. And they haven't told me and my agent what the number was, but they said it was unprecedented. So I think it seems like it was the biggest buyout in the league's history. I think we had one report of 100,000, then one report of 200,000. Which I don't get to touch, which kind of stinks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I wish I get to touch a little of the pie. But no, I'm really excited. It's the best deal that I've gotten in my professional career, and I'm just ready to get back playing after not playing for so long.
Yeah, well, I know that you talked about having to get out of Israel and everything. I'm sure you've had to tell the story a billion times, but just what was that whole thing like? Because I'm sure, kid from Arkansas, playing range, probably not something you ever experienced before. So what was that whole thing like?
It was crazy. Our first game was October 6th. Went out with a couple teammates after the game, and I guess it was like 6 a.m. Heard sirens, and I was on the 15th floor of a complex, and once the sirens went off, I was just kind of in a daze, and then my room started shaking, and I realized that was the Iron Dome missiles intercepting the other missiles in the sky, and like whatever's below it, you still feel that shake. But yeah, they were shooting missiles that whole day, from 6 a.m. to like 3 probably. I was just in and out of the bomb shelter. And probably like around 5 o'clock, the team manager picked me up. They had given us like an hour to pack a bag. So like I still have 3 bags there that I didn't even get shipped, which is going to help packing. Like I can only pack one bag, so I can go grab those bags. But yeah, it was crazy. So then pack one bag, go to the airport, and while we were at the airport waiting, they started shooting missiles at the airport. So like the airport started shaking. That was like one of those moments where I was like, what is going on? So yeah, like going back, it's taken some thought. For a while I thought I might never, but they kind of gave me an offer I couldn't refuse at this point in my life and my career, and I hope everything gets resolved soon. My safety is paramount, and everybody's there, and hopefully there's a ceasefire and everything when I get there. But we're just ready to play, honestly. Like I'm willing to tough it out.
Yeah.
To be able to play.
Well, it's just like that decision, I'm sure it's one that's when you've been going back and forth on and everything.
For sure.
Obviously, the contract and the money is a big factor of it, but like, what was that decision? What went all into that decision? Obviously, the contract, but just to do something like that, especially considering the experience you had when you left.
Well, I guess just like being at home for these, 3+ months, like not playing. I was starting away retiring, and went to the USA thing with the thought of that being my last couple games, and networking with them because I played with this team last year too, and just like starting the next career. I mean, my dream's to be an NBA GM. Like front office is the dream. I mean, coaching that may happen, but it's not necessarily my first thing I want to do. So I was starting to get my ducks in order for that, and I guess it's different retiring when it's like not under my terms and feeling healthy and ready like to still play. Now, if I was just banged up and not having fun doing it anymore, it's different. Like I'd be at peace with it, but just kind of was at a point where I wasn't really ready. And that kind of, when this offer came in, I was actually in Havana, Cuba with Team USA, and it was a weight off my shoulders. It was a easy decision.
So when you talk about working in the front office, or that's a dream of yours, is that something you've always dreamed about, or is that just something recently when you started playing pro and developing that you wanted to get into that?
It's a good question. I feel like in college maybe is when I started to realize that. Maybe seeing the stress that comes with being like a college head coach. Like, of course, if the time came where I could be the coach of the Razorbacks, like that's another dream. But just seeing the stress that it is recruiting and fan base is just all the things that go together with college coaching is it's tough. It's a tough gig, especially now with NIL. I feel like climbing the ladder in mid-major when, like say you have a good run at a mid-major and you've got two studs, like you're probably losing them. Like maintaining success in a mid-major to get your call up as a coach to a big school, I can't imagine that it's been any harder than it is now. But just, college, just like being able to pick the coach, pick the players you want, the staff, and, it's kind of like you're a scientist in a laboratory. You get to like put it all together, and I think that would be really cool.
Well, you mentioned the NIL, and I always ask former players. We have former Razorback Tyler Spoon in here, talk to him about it and some others. But just in your perspective, what do you make of the NIL and the impact that it has on college athletics? Do you think it's the way it is, or do you want to see something changed and adjusted? Like, what's your thought on it?
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to make some changes because it's just kind of became the wild, wild west. I feel like maybe if they just put the transfer rule back what it was when I was transferring, like where you had to redshirt, that probably solves a lot of it. Because not many guys schools aren't going to offer a guy a lot of money that it's got to sit out, and vice versa. A guy's not going to want to leave. So I think that would be the easiest fix. But yeah, they're going to have to figure something out because just like the poaching of players it's basically becoming pro sports. So like at some point, like can alums go play?
Yeah.
Like it's getting to be so much different. I'm just a little sick that I missed it by some years.
Yeah.
I'm sure Tyler is the same. Like, probably look at it like, dang, we used to be happy to get like $20 per diem after a Bud Walton game, and now, guys are making serious money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, especially if I think when you played, you mentioned the transfer, you having to sit out a year. In fact, it was funny randomly on my YouTube feed when it just keeps playing videos. I played when the Qualls putback dunk game happened, of course, and it's like you're there, but you're sitting out that year, and between when you were transferring. Like, was the waivers I've always been interested about. Like, how does those work? Where some players get to transfer, and then back then at least didn't have to sit out a year. But then there were players like yourself who had to sit out a year. Just what was that process like of transferring from Tech to Arkansas, and just how can you get waivers in that way?
Like it was so tough at that time. Like we didn't even attempt to waiver. Like the history of getting a waiver at that point, like it wasn't even worth filing for it because we just knew it was no chance. Like I remember reading stories back then of just like, guys moving close to like a sick family member and getting rejected. So I don't even remember like the process because we didn't even go through it. But yeah, it was much tougher back then. Like Baker Mayfield, they ended up giving him he went to Oklahoma, which meant he was supposed to sit out a year because Texas Tech, Oklahoma, same conference. You're supposed to sit out a year and lose a year. Which I think just because of his status, they gave him that year back, and he ended up winning the Heisman. But yeah, it was dang near impossible back then to get like a waiver and play right away.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some players that I remember. It seemed like all of them that would ever transfer into Arkansas, like you, or I know that Connor Vanover had to do the same thing. Alandis Harris, I believe, had to sit out too. It seemed like every player that came in, but then there were players that left Arkansas, transferred out, that seemed like they were immediately eligible to play. So I never understood. I always heard it was like a two-school thing, or hey, I had to come to agreement. But I'm with you on the transfers and the sitting out a year. That's just something to where each and every year, especially with like Razorback basketball, use them as an example. Every single year you're going to see a roster turnover, which can be good, but also it's like you can't almost get to know some of the players too, you know, and just guys that can stay with the team and stay with Muss or stay wherever. You just kind of like, all right, you're here 1 year and you're off to the next thing. It seems like.
Yeah, it's totally different now. It's pretty crazy that it happened so fast.
Yeah.
I remember us talking about it in college. Like, we'll see them get paid, but we didn't know how long it'd take. But yeah, it's crazy how far it's come since 7 years ago or whatever, since I was there.
Yeah. Speaking with former Razorback Dusty Hannes here on the John Neighbor Show. Now, Dusty, you mentioned kind of the changes that happened from when you played with the transfer portal and NIL, but as far as the game of basketball itself, Like, what would you say has been kind of the biggest changes from when you played college basketball to now and where it's at?
Guess something like what you said. You know, it's harder to have a good team when it's so many new players coming in. I don't know. The SEC, they have a lot of teams that are getting in the tournament, but like I was talking to Coach Z about it the other day. I just felt like from top to bottom the teams were better, but maybe that's just biased from when you play. You know, I'm like turning into one of the old heads that's telling you like the Warriors couldn't beat the 80 Celtics. You know, I guess it could be one of those things, but like I just remember seeing South Carolina in person, not thinking like that's the 17th ranked team in the country. But yeah, I think it's harder to have deep lineups when it's just new guys coming in and camaraderie. Like it takes so long to build chemistry. Like when I was playing, you know, we might play a team that they played together 3 years or 4 years. Like some of those Barnes, Tennessee teams, like we played them when they were young, and by the end they were really tough. Like you play together 3 years, you know everyone's tendencies. I think that's the biggest part. It's like free agency, like guys just hop around. But I will say the one game I've been going to a lot of games. I think the Dalton Connect kid is like one of the best I've seen in a while. Maybe like the best guard since Booker that I've seen in the SEC. I mean, he's a bad dude.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Well, we of course got the chance to see him too, and then you just see in every game where he's just lighting it up and consistently.
He's different, man. Did you see last night? He had 40 against Auburn.
Yeah, just like it was nothing. Just nothing. You know, another day at the office for him. And
easy,
stuff.
Man. Yeah, he's a big time guy.
Yeah, because he's one of those guys too where I'm not saying he came out of nowhere, but he definitely was a player that probably people didn't know his name last year, and then he just comes alive, and now you see it. And I mean, I don't know where he's going to get drafted or anything like that, but I think it's just good for SEC and good for having players like that can draw attention to it too.
Yeah, I love seeing the SEC get to be one of the premier conferences because I feel like, you know, I hate to keep going back to when I was here, but like it's four or five bid league at best, and now, you know, what is it? Probably eight bid right now, 7-8 bid. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
When you were playing, you know, you played with a lot of great players here at Arkansas. Like you had of course, I know you sat out for the year, but you, of course, had Bobby Portis and Qualls, and then you also had guys like Moses Kingsley, and you had Daryl Macon and Jaylen Barford. Just when you look back, and maybe it's from practices, like who was the player that you just were like, this guy's just next level good, and like it's mainly from behind the scenes too.
Yeah. Obviously, my redshirt year, like Bobby and Qual, that was a special year to watch them. Like Bobby was, you know, if it wasn't for Frank Kaminsky and Jaleel Okafor that year, I mean, he was National Player of the Year candidate. He's similar averages to those guys. In my senior year, I mean, you knew Daryl and Jaylen, like when they were just playing pickup those first few weeks, it was like, you know, they're going to be really good. Jaylen kind of took a while to get going that first year, I felt like, but you could just tell in pickup, like when he got downhill, he was an athlete, and then if his jumper's falling, you know, there wasn't much you could do with him. So, just that was a really fun team to play for.
Yeah. Well, I always think back to Barford because I think he was listed at 6 foot, but I was like, I don't think he was fully 6 foot. But
he was a bowling ball.
Yeah. I mean, but every time if he got the ball in transition, like, even if they had a really great athletic guard chasing him down or anything, I don't think there's been a better guy in transition than Jaylen Barford. It seemed like one-on-one.
Oh, he was very elite, and then had some chase down blocks too.
Yeah,
he was good at doing that. So that was a great backcourt.
Yeah, it was. It was fun to watch too. And also, you know, I know you played for Coach Anderson, but of those players, do you still keep in contact with a lot of those guys you played with?
About all of them, man. Always had great relationships with them, and I keep in touch with them all the time. Moses Kingsley was just here recently, so I hadn't seen him in a long time. We hung out. I think that was the Kentucky game, and Daryl, Jaylen, all of those guys, still hear from him. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot's changed in college basketball for Razorback basketball, and I'm just curious, what are your thoughts on Eric Musselman? Your dealings and your conversations with him, just what are your overall thoughts on him as a coach?
I just haven't seen someone turn around a program so fast. Well, I want to sit here and say turn around. Like we had got some momentum with the years on the back half with Coach A, but how fast he turned it up, it's incredible. Like to go back-to-back Elite Eights and then a Sweet 16 over that 3-year period, that's incredible. obviously a tough year this year, but I think with the portal, like you miss on a few guys and it doesn't mesh. It can happen, like it happened with Kentucky the other year. So I think he's just done an incredible job. He's full of energy, and you can just tell he's passionate. Sometimes, I mean, some people probably think overly passionate, but I'd rather have that than, low passion. So I think he's just done a great job. And I think he's able to have a bad year. Like anyone that freaks out on a bad year, like would you trade in? Would you take 2 Elite Eights in the Sweet 16 for a bad year or two? Like you asked 6 years ago, most fans would say yes, for sure. But once it happens, then everyone's like, oh, I think he's done a great job.
Yeah. What you mentioned a little bit, but what's the issue from your mind this year? Is it just the chemistry? Is it just the misses? What's the issue with this team right now?
I mean, just a bunch of new players, and it hasn't meshed right. You got to have a couple glue guys. I feel like I guess there wasn't no glue guys emerged. A lot of dudes that want to score the ball, and that was their identity, and don't have an identity outside of that. And I think that sometimes that can work, like when you have a bunch of scores. But we had a bunch of scores, and we're not scoring a lot of points. So like if you're not a defensive team, it's tough to win that way. But yeah, it's been a tough year. It's with their talent, they can turn it around for sure. But just kind of a shocking year because after I went to the Purdue game and first few non-conferences and got to sit courtside and like be close to it and just kind of see them, their height and length and stuff. And thought talent-wise is one of our best rosters. So that was a little the shocking part, but it happens. I'm sure Kentucky that year when they had the number 1 class and went 9-16, no one thought that was coming. So, it just happened. There's a really thin line between winning and losing.
Yeah. Well, and looking back at your career at Arkansas, obviously you got to go to the NCAA tournament. I'm mistaken. I guess you missed the first year that you were fully playing. That the second year, your final year, you were able to get there. But just what did you maybe learn from those 2 years and kind of helping you prepare your way for pro ball? Like what was kind of the takeaways that you had that helped you kind of get to where you're at now from those 2 years?
From my years at Arkansas?
Yes, yeah.
I really felt like the redshirt year did help me. It was a year of practicing against a really good team like that, really good players. Coach Mayberry, working out with him, and just honing my skills for another year. And like when you're a young guy, like, when I was a sophomore, I guess I was only 20, 21 years old. And, 1 year of weights and college stuff, it's pretty big in those times in your life. So I feel like I gained the confidence here. I didn't have that good of 2 years at Texas Tech, and then just coming to where I wanted to play my whole life and being able to like play well. It just kind of gave me an innate confidence. Like I'd done something I wanted to do. I felt like I belonged. And I think that was the biggest part. I felt like the fans and just the whole Razorback experience gave me just like the utmost confidence. I felt like I could play in the NBA and was able to have a few cups of coffee up there, which was sweet. But yeah, I think that's the number one thing. It gave me confidence.
Yeah. What is the moment or the time that every Razorback fan or that gets mentioned to you the most that people remember about you? Is there one particular play or moment that everyone comes up to you and asks about? Because I know what the moment that I always think of. I'm just going to be honest about it. It's the moment.
Dancing?
Well, dancing's definitely a great one. Yeah. I'll say that. But the Ben Simmons free throw line, I feel like that one gets brought up a lot too.
Yeah. I can't. Not really. My favorite thing, if someone comes up and says like, I really enjoyed watching you, you're fun to watch, that's as good a compliment as you can get. Just to give someone joy to watch you play what you love to do, that's the biggest compliment for me.
Yeah. Was there a favorite game that you had looking back at when you were time at Arkansas that you look at? You say like, man, that was a lot of fun and sticks out.
At Vandy was pretty fun because I was like a 1 for 10. I was having just a terrible night, and I was sitting on the bench. We're down like 16 or something with like 5 minutes left, and it just felt all like, I had a bad game. It felt like it was over. He subs me in, and I remember I think I hit one layup, and I hit another layup, like I just like strung together 10 or 12 points or something like that, and then I look up and it's like we're down 2, and then Moses steals it and he'll lay up, and we're either down 1 or tied or something like that, and then Daryl gets fouled on that 3. and hits all 3 free throws, and we won. I remember just, walking them down at their place was awesome. And then also just our road record that year. I don't know if it still stands, but I think that was the best SEC road record we had since the national championship team.
Yeah, I think was it 6 wins, I believe?
6 or 7, road wins. Yeah, we were really good on the road that year. That was my favorite moments too. Just winning on the road was more fun than winning at Bud. Like I always would tell my teammates and people, like, hitting a 3 at Bud is awesome. Like, I love hitting a 3 and like a momentum 3. It gets loud. They call timeout, call the Hogs. That's awesome. But I preferred to hit a 3 while it was loud somewhere else and it get quiet. That one that's like liberating. Like, it feels so good. And like they call a timeout at their place and it's silent. That feels the best to me.
Yeah. What was it? I think it was the Vandy game, going back to that. Was that the one that person just like ran up to Manny, was like flipping him off?
double birdied him. Yeah.
Like, what was that? Like,
it was hilarious.
Yeah, it was like and it was like the worst like middle finger you could throw up. It was so dinky, but I was like, what did Manny do to make this person run on the court?
I think he just ran in front of their student section, was like screaming, and they were just all so shocked that we came back and like so quickly, and he just gave him the double bird.
Yeah, well, I guess that's how you feel in that moment. It was just so random. I was just like, okay, this random person coming on the court is very upset by that. But,
right.
Yeah, but yeah, you were mentioning too about that. You're hitting the 3 on the road. Also love asking athletes this: your favorite height play you could do, because when I had Tyler Spoon on, you talk about as an outfielder either throwing a home and getting a guy out, gunning him down, or robbing a home run, something like that. But like as you as a player, what was always the play or anything that got you the most hyped if it ended up happening for you?
Man, I'd have to say what I just said, like a 3 on a road game that was like a dagger.
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe not just the timeout, but like a late second half one that, like, maybe say it's a few minutes left and they're scoring, we're scoring, it's like a 7-8 point game, and then I come and hit 1 or 2 threes, and now they're down 14, they're just dead. Yeah. Just those dagger threes is what I lived for, because you can feel it in the game too. Like, once they call that timeout, you can like feel the air come out of the building, and that's my favorite momentum one for sure.
Well, I'm sure you've hit a few of those also in your pro career too, but kind of looking at where you're going, and I know you're going to be, I guess, leaving tomorrow officially for going back to Israel, but what has the experience just been like playing overseas, and compared to what you had, of course, here in college and also in some of the pro leagues that you've had here? Just what's the differences in the game and in the setup and in the organization of playing in some place like Israel?
So obviously I didn't play much in the NBA. I was like 5 games or something like that, and then played a lot in the G League. So it used to be, if you remember, like, you get a Europe guy drafted to the NBA, it's like they're soft, they might not translate, it's tough over here. And, like, honestly, it's the opposite now. Like, we're the soft scoring entertainment league. Like, you come off screens, I don't want to sit here and be like, it's so easy to score, but like in the G League, I could have 20 points in the first quarter, and like, it's not a sweat. Like, yes, I am like a shooter, and in those leagues, it's easy. It's easy to shoot in the G League and NBA if you get actions run for you. All the big man, the 5 men are dropping on a pick and roll. So if you run your guy into the screen, the big guy's like in the paint daring you to shoot, basically, which doesn't work for guys like me. But if you go to Europe, way more physical, hedging the screens, like they're hitting you. I mean, it's tougher to score. There's not as much space. The big man can have 3 seconds in the lane, which NBA you can't. And it is like Luka said it and got so much flack the other year, but like, it is harder to score in the Euro League than the NBA if you're one of the top guys, 100%. So it's just kind of crazy seeing how it flipped. Like, Europe was the soft skill guys, and now it's like it's turned over, like it's flipped. So that's the biggest thing for me, is getting back over there and getting more acclimated to that game, because I only played 1 year in Australia. It was a tough year. Just getting back acclimated to that style of basketball.
Mm-hmm. Who's the best player you ever played against in your career? Anybody, best player?
Does it have to be official game, or could it be like pickup scrimmaging?
No, give me pickup. Give me anything. What you got?
So I used to go to LA with Bobby Portis in the summers and stay with him, and I'd go do whatever his regimen was, because I wasn't able to afford living in LA for 2 weeks, and do all that. Like, he's done so well. But one time we showed up to Harvard Westlake Middle School, and the Brooklyn Nets were having a like silent training camp, like a summer training camp. And the team was me, Bobby Portis, Sasha Vujacic, who used to play on the Lakers, David Nwaba, and Carmelo Anthony. And we played Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant was in the gym, but it was after his Achilles. Going against Kyrie Irving that day, that was probably my biggest matchup. And I don't know, like I kind of got out of my body and just I hit my first three, and I hit my next three, and I just kind of like got really hot, and like it was on Kyrie, and so I'd like take a moment and be like, oh my god, like I'm wearing like his shoes probably at the time, you know, like my favorite Nikes, and I'm like, what's going on right now? But then when you go to Rico Hines runs, and that's at the UCLA like hyper basically, and I mean I played against Russell Westbrook there, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, James Harden, like just that. It's amazing how many of the stars are in LA, like doing that same stuff. So pickup was my best opponents. G League, there was a lot of talent in the G League, but yeah, I got to go with those LA pickup runs. I never knew who was going to be there. I just show up, and first time I did not play good at the UCLA runs because I think I was just like, I don't know if I belong here. And then after sleeping on it, it's like I got to go play better the next day, and I played better. So those were great times in my life.
Yeah,
sure.
I bet so. So you're basically saying you took Kyrie on and smoked him.
Yeah, it was my best basketball moment.
Yeah,
like ever.
Yeah, there's no camera, no video of it, but it happened.
Zero. And if there was, it'd be confiscated.
100%, man.
Yeah,
100%. Well, Dusty, before I let you go, man, just kind of looking ahead, just what's the future hold for you? I know you talked about you wanted to get in the front office, but as far as just your pro career and being in Israel, just kind of what do you want the next 5 years of your life kind of to look like if you can make it happen?
Yeah, so this deal I signed there's a third of this season left, so the contract's for this third of the season, the next 2 seasons. So like I said, it's my best deal. I was super excited about it. So I guess at the end of this deal, I'll be 32. I'm 30 years old now. It's crazy. I'm getting old. So if I can keep going, if my body lets me after that, I would like to, but it's really a health thing for me. As long as I can keep going, I will, and obviously enjoying it. But as soon as I decide to hang it up, which could be after this one, who knows? You just never know with your body what will happen. But the next step would either be scouting, or if I'm able to get in a front office and in some type of capacity. There's also a GM for college basketball now too, with NIL. So
yeah,
that would be sweet.
Yeah.
Could come here and be a GM. That'd be sweet.
You could be the very first Razorback GM that ever existed.
That would be awesome. I need you to keep plugging that for me.
I'll do that, man. Yeah, because, hey, listen, I think everybody would be okay with a former Razorback doing it, especially someone like you. So you got a passion for it. But, hey, we appreciate it, man. Good luck over there in Israel. And, of course, everyone's hoping for your safety, but also that you continue to play really well. And we look forward to having you back here in the States, man. So, but good luck to you, and we'll be catching up with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good luck to y'all as well, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.